Hola, buenos días. En este video vamos a aprender los verbos de bota. So I'm going to tell you why they're called boot verbs in just a second. The technical term for these is stem changing verbs, and I'm going to show you what that means as well. So let's take a look at it, okay? Let me show you just one to get it started. So as you start getting further along in Spanish, you're going to find verbs. Obviously in your flashcards it might say cerrar, to close, but you might start seeing something new next to them that looks like this. So it might say E-IE or even E with a colon and then IE. What that tells you is that it's a stem changing verb. Now let me show you what the stem is. So if I take my traditional verb chart that you're probably learning in your Spanish class, looks like that. When you conjugate a verb, you've learned that you take off the end of the verb. So you're going to take off the AR from cerrar. What's left over is called the stem. So that's why it's a stem changing verb, because the stem is going to change. So you probably learned that the ending for an AR verb is an O. So if you didn't know that this verb was a stem changing verb, you'd probably put something like cerro. You don't want to say cerro because cerro means hill in Spanish. We want to make sure we put this correctly. So what has to happen is the E is going to change to an IE. That's what this means. So, cierro is I close. Now let's keep going. Okay, then you got the tu form is cierras, the he, she form, cierra or usted. And then the bottom right one, we got ellos, ellas, ustedes for they or you, plural, cierran. Now, before I finish the chart, I'm going to draw a shape around those four. I'm not a good artist, so bear with me. So if I kind of draw a circle around them, or what looks like a boot, or a shape around them, that kind of comes out like a boot. So that's why the term boot verb comes about. So the parts that are inside the boot have that change. They have the stem change. If they're outside of the boot, they just act like a normal AR verb. For example, in this case, we have cerrar. So those would look like this. So we have cerramos for we close, and cerráis for you guys in Spain close. Let's take a look at another verb. So the next verb I want to look at is the verb jugar. Jugar means to play, and I put it up here on the board for you. So what's going to happen on jugar is a little bit different than cerrar, because the letters that change are different in the middle. So the U on jugar will change to a UE in those same four places that you saw cerrar change. So if you want to try and do this by yourself, pause the video, because I'm going to write it on the board and you're going to see it in just a second. So pause the video. If you want to do it prior, change the U to a UE in the four places, and then also make sure you change the end of the verbs, because cerrar or jugar being an AR verb, you have to take the AR off in addition to changing the U to UE, and then add the correct endings to it. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to write them on the board right now. You can probably notice right away that I changed the U to a UE in the yo, tú, eleo, usted, ellos, ellas, ustedes forms. And then the other two that are outside of my boot, which I didn't draw here, but you can imagine it, they don't have that change. So let's do another verb, but I'm going to give you a verb that's not an AR verb, just to see if you can test yourself and see what you know. All right, so we're going to look at the verb preferir, which obviously means to prefer, and you can see next to it I put E-IE. So that means that the E needs to change to an IE. But you probably have some red flags going up because you notice that there are multiple E's in the middle of the verb preferir. So what you need to remember is that it's going to be the E closest to the end of the verb, unless it's an ER verb. Let me give you an example of that really quick. So the verb entender, which means to understand, is also an E to an IE verb, but you'll notice right away there are three E's in the verb. It's going to be the E closest to the end, unless it's an ER verb, then it's the one before that. So in entender, it'll be the E in the middle that changes. But let's do preferir for now. Now keep in mind, this is an IR verb, so the endings will be a little bit different than the jugar and the cerrar that we did earlier. If you want to take a shot and see if you can conjugate that, go ahead. I'm going to write it on the board right now. Okay, so we have prefiero, prefieres, prefiere, preferimos, preferís, and prefieren. And you notice that the E that changed to an IE is the second E in preferir. Now, if you had trouble with the endings of it, keep in mind that the IR verbs are a little different than the AR verbs. If you haven't noticed this pattern yet, let me show something to you. If you know the to form of the verb, all you have to do, and this works for all of them in the present tense, drop the S and you have the he, she form, and then add an N to it, and you have the AOS form. So if you know one of these, three right here, it's really simple. Just drop the S, add the N. And of course, these two over here, the E does not change to an IE because they're outside of the boot. Let's do one more verb that has, we'll do entender right now. So if you want to pause the video and see if you can do it, I'm going to write it on the board right now. Pause the video, I'm about to do it. All right, so now you have the verb entender conjugated for you as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a practice activity on the board. I'll put 5 sentences with 5 verbs. I'll make sure to include whether or not it changes from an E to an IE or an O to a UE or whatever it is the change is going to take place. And then you can pause the video and then see if you can get those correct. So let's take a look at the activity. So here's the activity for you. What I put on the board is a sentence with the blank in the middle and a verb next to it. And I've told you the verb and then what change takes place. And I just kind of finish off the sentence. So just for example, the first one, ella en poder. Poder means to be able to. Probably if you're in Spanish class, you've heard puedo ir al baño, can I go to the bathroom? So she can swim well. So I'm going to change that verb poder into the she form. So, and I used a couple of different types of verbs where like the O goes to a UE or the E to an IE or E to an I, just so you can get some practice with some different ones. So pause the video really quick if you want to do these. I'm going to write the answers on the board right now. All right, so here are the answers for you. I'll go ahead and read the sentences to you, tell you what they mean, and maybe point something out to you along the way. So the first sentence I already told you means she can swim well. Ella puede nadar bien. Oración dos, sentence number 2. Tú prefieres la radio. You prefer the radio. Notice I changed the second E to an IE, the E closest to the end. Número 3, yo encuentro el tesoro, so that O changes to a UE on the verb encontrar, I find the treasure. Número 4, nosotros pedimos el menú, so we ask for the menu. If you change the E to an I right here, remember that nosotros is in the top right of your verb chart. It's outside of the boot, so it shouldn't change. And then the last one, ellos juegan el tenis. They play tennis. So the U on jugar changes to a UE. That's kind of the idea of a boot verb. There isn't any great way to just look at a verb and know that it's a boot verb. You have to just use it a lot over and over again. So like if your teacher asks you a question in class, ¿qué prefieres hacer el fin de semana? What do you prefer to do on the weekend? And you hear like 10 of your classmates answer that question, make sure you're listening to them, because the more you hear it, the easier and more quickly it'll come to you when you're using it in conversation. Hopefully this helps. If you have questions, let me know in the comment section of the video. Hope to see you in the next time. Hasta luego.